Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Honestly Hannah, a podcast hosted by me, Hannah Coda, where I share all my honest opinions about all things going on in the world. I'm treating this podcast like a diary, and trust me, I have a lot to say. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be back. For those of you who don't know, I just took a couple weeks off. Every single week as it came up, as Monday came up, I was like, oh, I don't know, should I post? I don't know what to talk about. It's just so much energy. And long story short, I was just putting a lot of pressure on myself to try to produce something, to try to get guests, to try to get new equipment, and all of this stuff is eventually coming, but also in conjunction what was happening with my life at that time, with my job, with my friends, and everything just kind of picked up. And it was the summer. I wanted to be outside. So it just didn't work out. And, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you get really unmotivated. Sometimes you just don't want to do it anymore and give yourself a break to relax, take care of yourself and your mental health from whatever you're doing, and just listen. And then one day you're going to feel refreshed. And I definitely feel like I have a lot to talk about that did not go away. I'm not going to recap whatever happened the past couple weeks, even though every week I was like, oh, I need to talk about this. I need to talk about this to someone. And it's one of the reasons why I started this podcast. I feel like, again, I had a lot to say and I really wanted to just tell the world and tell a lot of people at the same time. And this is the outlet that I chose. But yeah, I want to start off there with kind of what happened this last week. But before we get into that, it is the end of August. We only have one more day left in August, and it is September 1st. I consider September 1st the official start of the holiday season. And I know this is a controversial topic. I know people hate this. And then there's some people who are on the same page as me who are already counting down to Christmas. And when they can start putting up their Christmas decorations and start listening to Christmas music, start watching Christmas movies. So I say all this to say that this is going to be a holiday podcast. There will be holiday themed episodes, so I'm warning you now. We are in August. I'm warning you now that October will have some, November will have some, and of course, December will have some. And then I get the holiday blues in January. So we'll see. We'll see where we're at when we get to January. But September is also my birthday month. So starting September 1st, I will be celebrating. I'm going to share with you all what I'm doing throughout the month. I'm going back on vacation this upcoming week to start celebrating my birthday. And so that's going to be really fun for me. I'll see if I can crank out an episode next week, but honestly, I don't come back until Sunday. So we'll see if I can post Monday. I'll probably just post maybe a little bit later, but we'll see. But yeah, it's such an exciting time for me. It's the best time of the year because my birthday is selfishly, of course, my birthday is in September. Then comes October with all the fall vibes as well as Halloween, which I have to say is not my favorite holiday, but it's part of the holidays, so I'll put it in there. And then we have Thanksgiving, which in reality, November 1st, I start singing Christmas music and decorating. So Thanksgiving gets overlooked just a little bit, although I do like to cook now and bake. So Thanksgiving dinner I might look forward to it this year. And then of course we have Christmas. So this is just the start of the happiest time of year for me. So if you're one of the crazy people like me who like to start celebrating the holidays super early, I think either next week or the week after that, I'm going to share all of my fall scents, where to go for the fall decor, for all the fall candles, plugins, whatever you need. Chapsticks. Oh my gosh. I know that one was random, but I saw that at the store today. But yeah, so that's how the next couple months are going to go, folks. But I do want to say this before we continue on as well. Thank you all for being so patient with me. And if you are an avid listener, I hope I didn't disappoint you too much. I hope you keep coming back, whenever and literally whenever I post. And I hope you enjoyed this content. I'm always looking for new ideas, so if you think that there's something I should do or have somebody specific on, just let me know. I still plan on having Alana and Ashley over to talk about One Direction, but maybe we'll do that closer to, I don't know, a date that is significant for us. We do plan on seeing Harry Styles in November. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, so maybe we'll do the episode around then, or maybe I'll get them in this month, but we'll see. That being said, I'm rusty, y'all. That being said, let's go ahead and jump into the news. Okay, so let's go into what I just want to talk about, which kind of happened this week, past couple weeks. So in terms of sports and everything going on in the sports world, I'm just so happy for football. I love football. I love all aspects of football. I love college football, not as much as I love pro football, but I just think it is, again, the best time of year, but also the best time of year for sports. Because baseball is ending, which I feel like they've been going on forever. Basketball is kind of starting. Football is, in the thick of it, and they're starting. I started watching Hard Knocks with the Cowboys. I'll probably be following that throughout, the season, but I'm just so excited. I love football. It just, I guess it's like a reminder that it is fall. And anything that reminds me of fall is good in my book. Going on to TVs and movies. Okay. And I know some of you are going to be like, yes, can you talk about this? Because I feel like I asked multiple people to watch it. Manifest, which I talked about a couple weeks ago. It was originally a show on NBC or from NBC, and they canceled the show and put it on Netflix with only 3 seasons. I still have 1 or 2 episodes left of the 3rd season, and I was waiting because I didn't want to be disappointed that, I just didn't want to be disappointed that Manifest was like canceled, and I didn't want to finish it and like have no closure, have no real ending. I can tell where it's going. It's getting very sci-fi. If you've watched the show, you know what I'm talking about. And we're starting to talk about even religious things and like how they all cross. So whatever, but we have some good news that Netflix picked up the 4th season. One of my friends sent me just like the notice of like the article of one of the articles that was put out saying that Netflix added a 4th season. I believe it's a 4th and final season, but it's a really long season. It's like 20 plus episodes. And I'm so happy. I'm so excited that they can close it out the right way. And actually give everybody closure. So I'm so freaking excited for that. I know I'm late to the game, but not really, because this happened a couple weeks ago, but I do want to mention this because when it happened, I had a lot of opinions about it. I, like many others, did a Twilight marathon on a lazy Sunday. And I watched 2 through 5 of the movies. I did not watch the first one because I feel like I recently just watched it, like within the last year. So I was like, I don't feel like I need to see this. I don't remember New Moon. I don't remember Eclipse. I barely remember part 1 of Breaking Dawn. And then I feel like part 2, like you kind of just always see like on TV. So I was like, okay, like let me watch the second one. I don't even really remember. All I know is like Jacob is highlighted in this one. I ended up watching all of them, all the way to part 2, and I have a couple comments. And for those who rewatch them with this new insight of being an adult when you're watching it, like, bear with me. Let me see if you have the same opinions. First off, they're trash. We know they're trash. We knew that they were trash when I was a teenager and they were coming out. That's not what I'm here to say. What I'm here to say is that there were some things that were bad that are just like inconceivably bad. Like I don't know how I didn't recognize this before. One of them being the wigs. The wigs in all of these movies for all of the characters were horrendous. Whoever did the makeup and hairstyling just absolutely deserves to just not work in this industry anymore until we get to like, part 2, and she's supposed to look alive and whatever, because she's a vampire now. I'm just talking about Bella or freaking Kristen Stewart, but everybody else too. Like, what's happening? The wig for Jacob when he has his long hair, for Alice, for Jasper. I cannot. I don't remember them being that bad. And they were bad, you guys. Just absolutely. And I don't know why this specific thing caught my eye. Like, I really don't. But it was just, I can't. Obviously the acting was pretty bad, but another thing that I want to, but like, it was supposed to be bad. Like, they're not, I honestly don't think Kristen Stewart and like Taylor Lautner and all them, I don't think they're bad actors. I actually really like Kristen Stewart as an actress. When she's like in the roles that she was meant to be in, right? We knew that it was bad writing, bad acting. It was for the money, right? We all knew this. I knew this back when I was a teenager, okay? But I will say there were some really awkward pauses in the movie that I'm like, okay, you couldn't have just, this cut of the movie couldn't have just been for the movie theaters, and then there was like another cut that was released later. Like, every time Taylor Lautner takes off his shirt, there's like an awkward pause. Every time Edward and Bella like have like a moment, there's like an awkward pause. And like, even when Edward looks at her a certain way, like there's an awkward and I'm just like, you guys, who put this through the editing? And I get it, like, it was for that dramatic effect and they knew people were going to like react like this maybe within the first year of the movie was released, but we're talking like, these movies now are iconic in the sense of like how bad they are, and how cheesy and like fulfilling it is for this type of genre. So I just wish that more thought would have gone into those awkward, weird pauses where like there's supposed to be like some commentary, whether people are laughing or, oohing or awing. It's just, yeah, whoever was in charge of that editing, like, I just wish they would have went back and thought about that. But other than that, y'all, it's a guilty pleasure. It for sure is. Like, I wasn't even a Twilight fan. This wasn't even my thing. But I went back and watched those and I was like, I just remember going to the movies and watching these and what time in my life I was at when I watched these movies. And it was just very nostalgic for me. So I actually liked it. Going to music, I guess the only thing I really have to say about music right now is everybody's obsessing over Kanye and how Universal supposedly released his album without his permission. And I'm just over it. I don't want to talk about Kanye. I will not talk about Kanye anymore, ever again on this podcast. I don't like him. I've never liked him. I've never liked him pre anything, post anything. I've never been a Kanye fan, and everybody who knows me knows that. So like, I just hate commenting on it at all. So from here on out, I'm not commenting, and I'm just making it known. Going to food. So Starbucks dropped their new fall drinks. And honestly, in all like reality, I do think it was a little early, but also they have to get prepared, right? And like, some people do start celebrating fall because they hate summer so much, like me, but I still think it probably was a little too soon. But they do have a new apple something macchiato. I did try it. It's not my favorite. Just like, if stay with the pumpkin spice, pumpkin cold brew, whatever you need to do, because, that's just, stay with the traditional stuff, especially for fall. And then things that are just going on in the world. I know that or just even in the US, there's a lot of tragedies going on. Obviously, like in Afghanistan, in Haiti with the major earthquake that just happened, and then the US is, going through a pretty wild hurricane in Louisiana right now. There's so much tragedy and there's so much going on, and I just want to say, I am taking it all in, and I think a lot of people are, and realizing that we're so small in such a huge world, and I just want to do anything I can support the people who need help, and that are not in a situation to make their own decisions or to be able to like just provide for their families because of what they're going through at that time. And so I just want to say it's been obviously a sad couple weeks. And yeah, it's the tragedies are astronomical, and it's It's really sad. On another note, though, for booster shots for the Delta variant, I've seen people getting booster shots already, especially those in the medical field. I believe Pfizer said, and obviously the CDC and the World Health Organization said, hey, we're going to need booster shots. I believe it's 9 months after your full vaccination date is when they're recommending you get a booster shot. However, contact your doctor, but I know people are starting to get them. I've seen it on social media. I've seen it in news articles, which I think is just so great. So when it's time to get your booster shot, I would definitely go and do it. I will be when I can and when it's available. The next just section I want to do is I had you all answer some of my questions on my podcast Instagram, or ask me some questions, as well as ask for any advice that you would want me to answer on the podcast anonymously, of course. Obviously, I can see who sent in these questions, but their names will not be mentioned on this podcast. I actually got some really good, juicy questions, as well as seeking advice. And the genre is just kind of like all over the place, which I think is really, really cool. So let's go ahead and jump into the advice/question section of this week's episode. Okay, so let's go ahead and start out with the first one, and it's kind of a question/advice one. Please give me key pointers to keep in mind when getting a full-time job. So I'm assuming like interviewing for a full-time job. I interview a lot of people like all the time now that I'm thinking about it. Some key pointers I definitely will say is first off, make sure you thoroughly read the job description. And I know that might seem a little redundant and you're like, I know, like, whatever. But if you're searching up jobs on like a search platform like LinkedIn or Indeed, and you're just kind of applying to everything that has the same title, titles and job descriptions and all of that stuff, it can change, and people have different titles for different things. And not only that, when you are in your interview, you want to be specific. You want to know what you're talking about. So I would 100% make sure that you know what the job description says, about the company, do a little research, and know exactly what your responsibilities would be, and if you could see yourself doing those responsibilities. I know a lot of the time there's a lot of general like qualities that companies are looking for, but usually mixed up in those qualities, there's something that's very unique. Like for instance, if they say we want someone detail oriented and they have to work in a fast-paced environment, like I feel like that's pretty general, right? But if the next thing is it needs to be able to communicate effectively with upper management or something like that, or if it's a little bit tweaked to be more specific, or needs to be able to communicate with senior VP and blah, blah, blah. That is because either they've had issues in the past, or it is very important to them that this person has this skill or has that specific thing that they're looking for. And that's something to ask. In my personal opinion, I love when people have questions at the end that we didn't cover in the interview. And that would be, I feel like, a really good place to bring something up like, hey, I was reading this. I see that you want this quality to be able to effectively communicate with the senior vice president of the organization. What exactly do you mean by this? It's a really good way to kind of do a full circle moment. I would also say to make sure you're as professional as possible. Like, even if you have connections with the company already, it's never always like, I guess, just err on the side of caution that even like if it's your peers or whatever it may be, or you think it's like a low key kind of job, but it's full time or whatever, always dress your best, be as professional as possible. I always tell people you really can't overdo it in that sense. People like people who are respectful, honestly, at the end of the day. And they can trust that you're going to be respectful, and the little things like this show them that you're going to be that. I would also say to make sure you know the company culture as much as you possibly can. If you can speak to someone in that position already before the interview, or somebody who works in the company, just try to get a little insight, even if it's messaging them on LinkedIn, just being like, hey, I'm interviewing for this position. Is there any insights you can give me? It's really nice when you can transition someone who kind of just understands already, especially if you're coming externally and not internally, for this full-time position. And yeah, like proofread your resumes and your cover letters to the fullest extent. You'd be surprised how many of those like get passed up, just for like one little grammatical error, for a lot of people. And yeah, I think that's it. So the three things or multiple things would be: make sure you read the job description so you know what you're actually interviewing, making sure you're asking questions and like seeing what specific qualities they may want for that company, talking to someone in the position already to get an insight on the company culture, and just make sure you're proofreading all your work, being as professional as possible. And yeah. The next one is, okay, so I got a story for this one, but I think what this person is trying to ask advice for is dealing with mother-in-laws, or dealing with your significant others, parents, guardians, whoever they may be. I specifically do not have a mother-in-law. I'm not married. However, I have never had an issue with my, I guess, soon-to-be mother-in-law, or my significant other's mother. I've never had an issue with her. She's literally the sweetest woman in the world. And yeah, I've never had an issue. However, I have been in relationships in the past, and I've seen relationships with my friends where I think a lot of the issues arise from how they already were, right? And a lot of times, with mother-in-laws or father-in-laws, they are obviously tend to be older, so they're stuck in their ways and they think that they know what's right and what's wrong for you and your significant other. I honestly would say, as much as you possibly can, encourage and empower your significant other to have that conversation with their parent, or guardian, whoever it may be. Because you are going to have this relationship with a mother-in-law, a father-in-law, whoever it may be, especially if you're married, for a very long time. So if that significant other doesn't have that relationship already or is not sticking up for you, it needs to be abundantly clear to your significant other. And that's just through my experience, what I've seen through my friends. You need to have that conversation with your significant other first. If the mother-in-law or the father-in-law are still not respecting your significant other at that point, it's time for boundaries. And you have to set those boundaries and set them in a way that you know won't become a huge argument. And mind you, every person is different, right? And every person's going to get defensive. I think that's natural. However, I would catch it as early on as you possibly can, to the sense of like, hey, like, this is how it's going to be, and I respect you, and I respect you as my significant other's mother or father, or whoever they may be, but we are now in a relationship, and this is where I draw the line. That does not mean I don't love you. That does not mean I don't want you in my life. It may get to that point at some point. However, I need to create this boundary and honestly just communicate it. And I say to be as direct as possible with caution. Obviously, there are some people who will get defensive right away and completely shut down. So obviously, timing, I think, is a big thing as well. Like, I wouldn't bring it up at a huge family party when y'all are, washing dishes together. I would definitely maybe try to set a time where it's just you, your significant other, and your mother-in-law or father-in-law, so you can have like a real conversation about it. And then if those boundaries continue to break, unfortunately, it may be time to just break off, and when they ask why they can't see you or you're not coming around, and I would just be honest with them that because you broke this boundary and I cannot move forward with this relationship if you keep crossing this boundary. So it's kind of like a 3-step process here. I definitely would say contact your significant other, or sorry, like have that conversation with your significant other and let them know, hey, this bothers me. I don't know if you see it, maybe you do and you're not saying anything about it, but we need to fix this. If your significant other's parents are not listening, I would then go ahead and take that stance. But again, it has to be communicated clearly, with boundaries, with expectations, even if it's just something small. I think clear and direct communication is the way to go. But I do get the apprehensiveness. I do get why you would be nervous because, again, you're probably going to have a relationship with this parent and you don't want to ruin it. You don't want to be not welcome. So, again, communicate in whatever best way is best for them and how you think they're going to receive that information. If you think it's better over a date like that you make with the mother-in-law, let's go out to lunch and let's have a girls' day and bring it up casually when you're getting your nails done. Or if you think that, hey, like I'm going to go get you a gift and then give it to you. And when I'm giving you that gift, I'm going to say, hey, we love you, but this is what's happening and it cannot happen anymore. I have never really personally ever had to do this. Like I said, I've never really had a mother-in-law or even a father-in-law where I've had to, put that foot down. But if I were in that situation, those are the steps I would take. I hope that helps. Going on to the next question, completely different area. Do you think you can find the one, but the timing not be right? What do you do? Do you wait? Yes, I truly believe that you could click with someone and they be your total soulmate if you believe in soulmates or love at first sight, but timing is not correct and you may lose them forever. I really do think that timing is actually more important than anything else. You have to be ready, and it's not just one person, it could be another person. I will say that you shouldn't be in a toxic relationship because one day you know that they're going to change. That's not what I'm saying here. And I'm not saying for you to wait until he or she changes their toxic behavior. But I do definitely think that there are some people who meet each other at the wrong time in life. And then years later, it's the right timing. They're both available. They're both in the mindset to be with someone else, because a lot of the times people are not ready to be with other people. So if you feel deep down in your heart that this person, there's something special here and there's something I would like to pursue, but I'm not ready, or he or she or they are not ready, it's completely up to you if you want to wait, but I wouldn't wait like in the sense of like you're texting them every day and you're like, hey, like, you ready for a relationship? I would literally just communicate it to that person and tell them like, hey, I think this is something special. I feel like we have something special, but maybe you're not ready in your life or I'm not ready in my life. And, maybe one day we can connect, and maybe in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4, 5 years, you meet up again and sparks fly and you guys are both ready for that relationship. But it's definitely something I think you need to decide and make sure that there's no toxicity to it, right? Someone who's toxic and has toxic traits and behaviors are not going to change in a week. They're not going to change in a month, and they're for sure not going to change in 6 months. Honestly, I think it takes years, and I definitely think that people will find each other if it was meant to be. I do. I really do. Going on to the next question. Not a question, just saying hi, miss you. I miss you too. You know who you are. I like to see you, but I think you're traveling all the time, and so am I. But we miss you. Sorry, you know who you are. What's the best advice someone has ever given you? I was like taken by this question. I was like, or taken back, sorry. Taken back by this question because I was like, oh, yeah, I've never really, I guess, thought about that. I feel like people have always told me you give good advice because I feel like I think of all the outcomes, like I think of everything that could happen, what's the good and bad. I take myself out of the situation and try to give like a third view, a third perspective. Um, but no one's ever asked me what's the best advice someone has ever given me. I know it probably sounds cliche, but so much comes with this in the sense of just be yourself. um, I am the type of person who asks a lot of questions. I'm curious. I am a little outspoken, probably too much sometimes, but closed mouths don't get fed. And so that's like another piece of advice I've learned over the years. But completely and utterly be yourself. And if you mess up and you're yourself a little bit too much, maybe in a situation, I think it's always good to learn, and grow from those situations. Gosh, I'm trying to like think of like one piece of information that I learned from this one person. Oh, actually, there is something, but it's something very small. But when I just said that out loud, it came to my mind. I had a cheer coach in high school, and she was there for me at a time where my parents weren't. So I spent a lot of time with her, and I definitely saw her as an authority figure, a good role model in my life. And at that time, I was going through a breakup, which I've mentioned on this podcast. And she had been with her now husband for a very long time already. And she gave me some good like dating advice that always stuck with me. And I don't even think she knows this. I think she randomly told me this one day. But like in terms of dating advice, this is the best advice someone has ever given me. She told me, because I was telling her about a situation where I just felt like I was doing most of the work and I was the only one who cared and blah, 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 about my relationship at that time. And she told me, Hannah, relationships are never 50-50. And I said, Renee, and me being, a Libra, or me being someone who cares about, fairness and like balance and everything is 50-50. She said to me, relationships are never 50-50. Never. Never in my entire life has the man that, I love, has it ever been 50-50. It is always 70-30, 60-40, 80-20. It is never 50-50. And that's where you grow, and that's where you find commitment. That's where you find love. That's where everything fits. But when you get to 50-50, that's when things start, going sideways. Because you start, if it's 80-20 or whatever it is, 70-30, you get to learn more about that person and how they need to be taken care of, or how they need support, or where they thrive, and how to really love that person. And I had never thought about it that way, and it is literally stuck with me to this day. And I know that might disappoint some of you, and you'll be like, like it's always going to be 50-50 with me. And it's, once you're in a relationship, at least where I'm at right now, in a long-term relationship, you really start realizing, most of the time it's like 70-30, 60-40. Most of the time. There's always a give and take, always. But yeah, I hope that was good enough. But that's the only thing I can think of right now. There were a couple more, but I'm just going to end it right here because this is where we started, so this is where we're going to end. I actually got this question, y'all. When is the appropriate time to start celebrating the holidays? In my personal opinion, it is okay to start celebrating the holidays September 1st. We're talking about Christmas, November 1st. I think that's like the sweet spot. So you can actually like start celebrating Halloween and all of that stuff. But yes, I'm so excited this week. I mean, not goodbye to the heat because it's still going to be hot, at least in California, Southern California, but at least all the fall things are coming. And I'm so, so, so excited for it. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Let me know in the comments and the reviews if you liked it too, if you liked this advice section. But yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful week. And this was Honestly Hannah.